Just hooked up the battery. Let's see if it fires up, and let's see how it runs. Welcome back to Living with a Classic. Summer's almost over here. Back in the workshop after being away on a lot of different trips. I brought you guys along and I filmed a lot of that, and a lot of that content is still gonna come out. Not sure if this video is coming first or that, but at least as I'm filming this, I do still have content ready to go out to you guys from my trips. So this white XJ12 here, or I mean XJS, why is it still here? What happened to it? Well, if I remember correctly, it came to me with a no start condition. Fixed that, it was an issue in one of the wiring looms. Fixed that, replaced some plugs, now it runs. That wasn't the end of it, because I was running it after that video and letting it fully warm up, and yeah, it has issues once it's fully warmed up. It won't rev. It will not rev at all, and that has to do with the throttle position sensor. It ignores the throttle position sensor when it's cold, and then when it's warm, it reads that, and then it will get a weird reading. But I tried everything. I disconnected it, I tried a different one, other things, and I realized it was the wiring loom. And that's when I found out some really weird issues. Let me show you what I found out here and how I finally solved it. This took a bit of troubleshooting. Actually did it twice. The owner was very nice to let me stop working on this car for a bit to finish the XJC for the trip. So I realized that it was something to do with the wiring loom. I told the owner it's going to be, quite a few hours just to strip everything back and figure that out. Is it all right if I work on a car that I need to get away in about 3 weeks? And he said, that's fine. And I said, I'll work on it as soon as I get back. And I've been back now, and I've been working on it. And I figured it out. So I think this car has had a fire at some point, either electrical or fuel or something. The wiring loom is burnt to a crisp, and someone spliced in different wires up to here, which would be fine if it was done well. It wasn't done well. It's just electrical tape and things here. And also they kept some of the burnt part of the loom. I would have cut it back to all the way here where the loom is fine. Why keep this little bit here that is burnt to a crisp? I don't understand that. Anyways, so what it was doing was it wouldn't let you rev really above 1,000 RPMs. And then it would, cut injectors. And that's about it. And that is really the overrun going in. So how it's supposed to work is if you have above 1,500 RPMs on the engine and you completely let go of the throttle, so you're at idle, it will cut fuel injectors until you're below that level, and then they will come back. So that's what was happening. So when it reached operating temperature, it would just read that you were at idle. So there was a short circuit somewhere, and yeah, so even if I removed the TPS, it would still do that. And yeah, it took quite a bit of troubleshooting. What I ended up doing, which was the fastest thing, was it's only 3 cables that control this. So I just made a temporary loom. I just twisted things together and laid it down on the ground on the outside of the car. I used a speaker cable and something else. Nothing professional at all. Just wanted to see, can I get this thing to run like that? And then I took a spare throttle position sensor from that red car over there. And even though this is from an earlier car, it works and it runs with that. So now the job is to replace this with some better, you see how crispy this all is? To replace all of this with better wiring, better splicing, and hopefully get a good connection, hopefully get this thing running. So that's what I'm going to do. These are the 3 main cables I'm going to start by using, because the rest of the car runs on this. So we're going to just do this, replace that, make sure it runs, and then I'll probably replace most of this as well, just to make sure we don't have any future issues. The best thing, of course, would be to get a new loom, but that is pretty expensive, and we're going to go this route. That's what the owner wants to do. So I will do that. You don't need to see me solder up and do all that, but I'll replace all of this, and then I'll bring you guys back when this thing is hopefully up and running as it should. So I just switched off my soldering iron and it's done. I replaced the 3 cables that were the ones that were really messed up yesterday, and I test ran the car and it ran really great. And then I replaced a couple of the ones that were melted, still working well but a little bit melted. So now everything has good connections. They're all soldered and all have heat shrink on top of them, and they're all running up there, and it's all pretty logical. So yes, I don't have the original colors, but I tried to mimic. So if there's yellow, you know, go to that. Or for instance, this is yellow on this end, but the other end is connected to the red of that, so that's red. Just try to make it a little bit logical, and you know, before everything was orange. So this is at least better, and it's working as it should. So I have just a little bit of cleaning up to do, and then we can fire this thing up, see if everything runs right, and if it does, it's pretty much ready for the customer to pick it up. Before buttoning everything up, I just wanted to check the TPS and adjust it because it was a little bit off. This is the throttle pedal here in the middle. So you have the rods going out from there. On the bottom, you have the TPS, the throttle position sensor. And they need to be adjusted. Normally, they look like this with a plug. And how you adjust them then is just you pull out the plug a little bit, and then you can probe between the red and the yellow. And that should read 3.2 or 0.32 volts. This read 0.37. So you just flip it upside down and you can adjust it. So I'm going to try and show you guys that it is, hopefully you can see the numbers on there, but that is correctly adjusted right now. You need to have ignition on, and it is 0.31, so that is really, really close enough. So if you have between 0.32 and 0.34, somewhere in between there, I'd say that's good, because this thing will move as you adjust it. So that is why these are exposed. Now I'm going to put the heat shrink on those, put those back together, wrap up the loom, and remove these 2 cables which are not used, and we should be ready to fire it up, and hopefully it still runs really well. This is all tidied up now, and I'm pretty happy with it. Loomed it up here, and some zip ties. Of course, it doesn't look original, but not going anywhere, and everything has a good tight connection. You can still get to these cables if you want to, no problem inside here, and everything else is back together. Just hooked up the battery. Let's see if it fires up, and let's see how it runs. There we go. It definitely just really needs a couple good runs and maybe a new set of spark plugs. I've cleaned the plugs, but if you remember correctly, this was a car that was just flooding like crazy. So it needs a couple good runs, probably get all the rings back a little bit. It has new oil and all of that. All the plugs have been cleaned. It does foul one of them on that side a little bit when cold, and then it's fine when it warms up. So it's sort of on 11-ish, 12-ish cold, and then if you rev it, it does rev very nicely, and then it's all back on 12 again. So I call that a success. And that's it for today's video. Really just thinking outside the box, literally. So if something is weird, you can make a spare loom outside the car. Like, I realized that something in those 3 cables was an issue. I laid 3 cables on the ground. I mean, that was a speaker cable and something else. It doesn't really matter as long as it just sort of works. And then I realized, well, the issue must be in here. Stripped that back, found what probably is the issue, which is just melted cables. Put it all back together with some new stuff. Now it seems to be running really well. I'm going to take it for a brief test drive, just really around the block. The car's not on the road anymore, but just make sure that it doesn't stall out. And should be good to go for the owner to pick it up on the trailer. There are things left to do on the car, of course. I mean, it's a pretty good car, but there are things left to do like on all of these. But the owner is going to continue with that himself. He just wanted some help getting it up and running, and now it definitely does run. And it runs pretty well, actually. Anyways, if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, share it with friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Until next time, I'm Adam. This was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.